Chapter 5, Building an Educational Philosophy in a Changing World. This is the image, of course, I steal from here for the notes. This builds on Chapter 4, but it presents a different view, a more aggressive view, if you will. Let's take a look at the learning outcomes. It's the same as the ones over here on our page. Number one, recognize the educational philosophy includes ideas about existence, human nature, truth, and goodness, along with psychological and sociological ideas about motivation, learning theory, social norms, and equality. So that's quite a mouthful, and it makes it sound really, really big. Number two, identify the major tenets of teacher-centered philosophies, which it lists, and then number three, the student-centered. And that's, if nothing else comes out of this, you have to, from both chapters, you have to be able to identify teacher-centered versus student-centered. That if you get nothing else out of these things on philosophy, please be able to do that. 4, state the components of your personal philosophy, education, in light of classroom organization, discipline, practices, and you'll get a chance to do that. List the characteristics, number 5, of teachers as change agents. That one's really hard for me. It's a kind of code for demonstrations and activism and those things, and that's really hard. And some of you will really like that, and you'll enjoy that part of it. But I've seen this now, and it's ugly. But that'll be up to you how you want to see that. So let's look at how this is laid out down here on the topical outline. Looks like this. First, developing it and building on a philosophy of others. Because at this point, you don't really have a philosophy. The book does a nice job explaining that. You don't have one. You're developing it. You're stealing it from others. But one of the things that makes you think about is we'll do a lot of things. For example, I'll give you an example. A lot of students will select, I'm a student-centered teacher. And then the first thing they do is start doing teacher-centered things for instruction, classroom management, those types of things. Not bad. It's just an awareness that that's why we studied this. And then, like the other chapter, here's the teacher-centered ones: essentialism and behaviorism and positivism. And we'll look at those three and what they mean for that. And then student-centered, progressivism, humanism, and constructivism. And then it'll walk us through about developing your own, like learning, focus, and goals, classroom organization, physical setting, teaching style, lesson planning, assessments, motivation, even down here different types of classroom management discipline like choice theory, assertive discipline, conflict resolution, discipline guidelines, classroom climate. And if no other reason here, you are familiar with those terms when they come along again in a classroom management class or a methods class. You can say, oh, Fegan talked about these in my foundations class. Okay. And then this about voice and space. And again, I'll ask you to contribute to that. And then this is the part about change agent, which I say to you is code for activism and stuff. And a portion of you will enjoy that, but that one's really, really hard for me because I've seen that. Okay, and so that's what we're going to study. So let's go take a look in the textbook first and flip the page. So this dynamic relationship between philosophy and education takes off here. Application of philosophy that causes the way curriculum is organized, the manner for which instruction is delivered, the character of school environments, and the process used in testing and grading are informed by the philosophical views. And even if you don't know it, you are adhering to some philosophical view as how you're making these decisions. And you'll realize that as you teach for a while. And these can be held by educators, parents, and legislatures, how they perceive things. Such of these views are vary greatly among schools. In other words, there's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of conflict. Yeah, I use that word. There's a lot of conflict in agreeing on these different views. And the conflict has never been wider and never been harsher and never been, well, if you would, meaner than it is right now. And that's why I hesitate this part of teachers are changing it, because this textbook is going to encourage you to be an activist in that area. So philosophies are not pure philosophy. In classical sense, rather, educational philosophies also draw on psychological and physiological theories, and the merger of different ideas and theories, different because of education itself, is interdisciplinary. So educational philosophies can be a mixture. Here's mixture of philosophical ideas in existence, like human nature, truth, and goodness, these things here. So, and that's what I'm going to ask you to do as an outcome of your study of these 2 chapters of philosophy, is show me what your mixture would be of these different philosophies, which part you adhere to in each one. So how do you develop a philosophy? Well, you steal. Like I said, you're not set. Philosophy is not a set of written words. It's a reflective platform for which decisions about teaching and learning are made. Okay, teachers' practices in the classroom provide the clearest indication of philosophy. And you don't realize it starting out, but you will as time goes on, and it's okay to have a mixture, but it's nice to have an idea of what your root, what your genesis, what your beginning belief is, in which you'll operate these things. A worthy goal of beginning educators is to become comfortable with a variety of classroom practices and address the needs of learners. So I can't agree with that more, is you need a variety of things that you need to understand. It's not a matter of selecting one methodology over another, but rather understanding different methodologies and using them responsibly. I'm not quite sure that word responsibly. Your philosophy of education develops gradually over time. It's a living platform that's never complete. So one of the things you're going to want to try and do here is get done and be done and have your philosophy. And I agree with these authors, it's never complete. It's a kind of a moving, what I would, if you will, a fluid type of thing. Your education philosophy emerges based on your experiences with learners and in and out of the classroom, with the use of different teaching and assessment methods, and your interactions with parents and other teachers. Okay, so let's go to our notes and just see what this says about it. Philosophy in the classroom. Use philosophy to develop ideas that govern decisions about teaching and learning. And that's the underlying thing. And I think it's really hard because a lot of times we try and teach you to make decisions and stuff about teaching and learning without understanding philosophical bases under them. And that's what this is to give you, is what is some of that. And then this will hopefully clarify instruction, curriculum, assessment, those types of things. And you'll build from the philosophy of others, which we'll look at 6 of them today. Let me go back here before we introduce those. And here is this building on philosophies of others. And I'm going to clip this and give you this because it breaks it real nice here of here's these 3 teacher-centered, and then here's these 3 student-centered, and here's the crack, and you see how they're different. And I want you to have this, and I want you to put it in your notes. So this will be number 1 right here after this. Well, you will insert this, and it's going to be called figure 5-1. It's big, so I watch how I do that here, if I can. Okay, so I want that whole thing, and I want to clip the whole thing, so I'm going to try this, some settings here. First of all, I'll click this and see if that gets it for me, and it doesn't quite get it for me, so I'm going to go out of this, and I'm going to reduce my screen just a little like this, and now see if it will fit. Yes, it just fits. And so okay. So there. Okay. So let's move on. You have that now. So let's look at these different groups now. The teacher-centered versus the educational. The teacher versus student-centered. And here they are: essentialism, behaviorism, positivism. And it tries to take a look at each of these. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to do on these, and it just gives you a flyover. Education person, that's a weird term. In any given culture must have a common core of information and skills. 3 basic principles of essentialism. Okay? So you can kind of see it. Essentialism, essential, it was a movement, core information, hard work, mental discipline. Really, we've deviated from this again. One's behavior is determined by environment, not heredity. Not everyone goes with that. Behavior is closely linked to realism. Positive stems from positive knowledge. Positive and lives knowledge of statements in this. So let's go right to this one. What is essentialism? So first of all, this will be number 2. This one and this one together. And it comes from here. Here's essentialism and perennialism. You bring those in here and address those. Here's the tenets. Core information that educated people should know is essential. Hard work, mental discipline, teacher-centered instruction. You draw some idealism, realism. We studied those last chapter. Focus mainly on developing basic skills, not truths. And the reason they're mentioning this, because a little bit farther, they're going to say that that's the most important thing. Okay, purpose of education in essentialism is to transmit culture and develop citizens. And here's a big one. This is what you got to understand if you're an essentialist. Student is the learner. The teacher instructs in essentials, reading and writing and arithmetic. And the curriculum focuses on subject matter, content, not ideas, not truths, not experimentation. Teacher presents, student learns, student writes tests. Here's the methods. Again, if you understand essentialism, required readings, lectures, memorization, which everybody's against now it seems like, repetition, and examinations, which is another word for, and I want you to put this in there. Okay, because that used to be how we determine if you knew something is by taking a test. So I'm not going to write a number here, but you're going to write this in your notes next to examination, tests. That's what essentialism is. Okay. So then, here was the reform movement. Let me go back to the textbook a little bit and talk about this. Here's the focus. Here's an essentialist class activity you would look at. Essentialist curriculum, what that looks like. And then here, this whole thing on school reform. And later I'm going to ask you who this, Seitzer is the main guy that's quoted all through here. But here is this part of reform. Let's look at it. Use mind well with a focus on clear essential learning and attempt to apply these goals to all students. Personalized teaching and learning. Emphasis on student as worker, hard work. Students' performance on real tasks with multiple forms. Principal and teachers as generalists, first, specialists second. Students do not exceed those traditional schools by more than 10% for the budgets. So it doesn't cost money to do this. And then non-discriminatory policies and practices is what it is. So what I'm going to have you do then, I'm going to clip this and ask you, you are going to paste this right here now. And this will be number 3 is a clip. And it is clip 5.2, or figure 5.2 it's called. Figure 5.2. And again, here's how I'm going to do each of these. I'm going to clip it like this. Figure 5.2. And that's how it'll be for you to bring in here, just like we did before. And the thing is, you have this information now, and there's going to be questions about this a little bit later. open that back up for you. There's going to be questions about this. What is the classroom organization of Essentialist, the teaching style, the classroom climate, motivation, discipline, learning focus, and here they are. You now have them in your notes. The next is behaviorism, and this will be number 4. You bring that definition in here. And you'll need to know this is B.F. Skinner, who was the father of behaviorism. Behavior determined by environment, not heredity. And innocent behavior responds to external stimuli because what thing happens to your behavior is related to realism, linked to environment. Teacher influences student behavior by controlling stimuli, school environment, highly organized, knowledge is observable, curriculum based on objectives. Okay, so I got that. That's 4. And again, I am going to clip it here. It gives you an idea. Please take a look at this quickly. I'm not clipping that. I'm just showing it to you about what a behaviorist activity looks like. So be ready to answer questions, and here's the clip, 5.3. I probably should be writing what they are as far as the different philosophies, but now you have that again. Exactly laid out for you, the different ones like this. So here, you know this, that teacher controls it. It's all about behavior, controlling behavior. Clear, consistent consequences over here. Rewards for good behavior is a constant thing with behaviorism. Okay. Then positivism, and you're going to see here that positivism, oh, it does here. So social theory, okay, so that will be here. Positivism, what number we're on. I better put this in here for you. So this will be number 5, goes here. Is figure, what was it, 5.2? 5.3 is there, and then here's positivism, and this is number 6, and you bring that definition out there, and here's what for positivism is: on observable, measurable information. Again, remember, this is teacher-centered. Rejects belief about mind, spirit, and consciousness. Why? Because it has to be observable, measurable. And so you're going to find when we get to student-centered, it's very contrary to some of those. Reality explained by laws of matter and motion, things that we've already proved. Knowledge is based on sense of perception, object reality, things that we know. So what are those methods? Like direct instruction, clear, structured directions and expectations. Knowledge gained through empirical observation, be able to see it. Students assessed using the same objective criteria, content standards based on expert understandings. So it's, you leave it to people that know. Okay, so let's go look at positivism here. Okay, so we're observing. We observe it to know it to be true. Here's the learning focus. And again, I'm going to say to you, look at this is what is a positivism activity, a positivist. And this will help you understand. So please read these, each one. All right. Here's the positivist curriculum, and here's your clip. This will be 5.4. Again, classroom organization, teaching style, classroom climate, motivation, all those are all right there for you. Okay. Now, you ready for the jump? Here we go. These are a little different. Student-centered educational philosophy. Here they are, the progressivism, humanism, and constructivism. It's a student-centered approach to subject matter, classroom organization, teaching methods, assessment. So although each of these educational philosophies forms a distinct, cohesive whole, all three are rooted in student-centered principle. That is, the belief that truth and goodness belong to all persons. So this is what I was saying about contrary to the teacher-centered. It's centered on the belief that truth and goodness belong to all persons, no matter what their situation. Teachers are learners, and learners are teachers. So it's not teacher-led, it's not student-led, it's learned together. And education, the process through which individuals help one another to clarify personal meaning. So in other words, the teacher doesn't clarify the meaning, the student finds their own meaning in everything they learn. And as that's with teacher-centered positions, we will present each student-centered with ideas of curriculum, teaching, learning, and in addition to philosophy, we'll describe representative programs for each of these. So first of all, what is progressivism? And again, I'm going to ask you to allow me to read this before I ask you to define it. In the late 1800s, the rise of democracy, the expansion of modern science and technology, and the need for individuals to be able to adjust to change, people in the Western societies had to have a new and different approach to acquiring knowledge. So this was the beginning of progressivism in order to solve problems. As noted in Chapter 4, Charles Peirce founded the philosophical term of pragmatism. This philosophy held the meaning and value of ideas that could be found only in practical results in these ideas. Later, here's the other name, William James extended Peirce's theory meaning and asserted that if an idea works well, it can be considered true. The satisfactory working of an idea constitutes the whole truth. Pragmatism was carried much farther, and here's your guy. That was the progressive who insisted that ideas must be tested by experiment. His emphasis on experiment carried over into his educational philosophy, which became basis of what is usually described as progressive education. It is an educational theory that emphasizes the ideas should be tested by experimentation and learning, and is rooted in the question developed by learners. So, and it's not tested by anybody, it's by the learner. And that's what makes it so unique. The others were, these are tried and true. Dewey says, until you have proven it, it's not necessarily so. So here, this will be number 7 here. And that is that definition of progressivism. And again, here I walked you through these. Okay, schools must improve society. And that's here too. Let me just give you this. Our learning focus is democracy. Here is a progressive activity. And please read that so you have an understanding of what we're talking about. And I say in here, if you'll look at these, it is a very this progressive look at thing is always somewhat as a, if I could, an agitator. Like for here, are you happy or unhappy with your life now as an adult after seeing this picture? How do you get people to use less gasoline? So this becomes the lesson of what it said earlier is student schools as change agents. And believe me, look, I couldn't disagree with this one more, but you have to understand it, and some of you will adhere to this. You'll wholeheartedly agree, and that's great for this one to be carried on. Here's the curriculum, progressive curriculum, and here's the clip, 5.5. Let me grab it for you. And you're going to like some of the things in here. You're going to grab some of these for your figure 5.5. Okay. And you're bringing that in here into your notes. Schools must improve society and model democracy. It's really interesting because schools often don't model democracy. It's really a totalitarian structure. School must model meaningful, organized freedom, whatever that is. Freedom expressed through student-teacher collaboration. Texts become tools, not indisputable knowledge. And boy, have I found that to be true. Henry Gurach, schools as vehicles for change. Teachers should practice critical pedagogy. And so this will be number 8, is you bring that in here, the clip, or figure, figure 5.5 goes right there. And then you'll have all that for it. Okay? And then humanism. Humanism is another interesting cat. If I could read this, humanism is educational philosophy that is concerned with enhancing the innate goodness of the individual. It rejects a group-oriented educational system that seeks ways to enhance the individual development of the student. Humanism is rooted in both the writings of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we already studied him, and ideas of existentialism. Rousseau, the father of Romanticism, believed that the child entered the world not as a blank slate, but with certain innate qualities and tendencies. Because remember, we studied others said, the child enters as a blank slate. And the only opening sentence of Amelie, and some of you, I forget who it was, told us about Amelie. Rousseau's famous treatise on education, he states that everything is good as it leaves the hand of the author of things. Everything degenerates in the hands of man. So that was his thing. Thus Rousseau believed in basic goodness of all humans at birth. He also believed that humans are both free but have become enslaved by institutions. So that was his thing of humanism. And this will be your number 9, is you'll bring that definition in here, right there. And this is their thing, should enhance innate goodness. The objective is the students. Education should start in the individual self. Should develop free and self-actualizing person. So it might be a little contrary, but you're going to like some of the things that they believe. Curriculum is found in the environment, not schools, not textbooks, not subject matter. Positive students-teacher relationships crucial for learning in humanism. Here. So we have a lot of instances where that's not the case, so probably not a humanistic approach. Individual instruction, open access curriculum, and non-graded instruction. Okay, let that soak in. Non-graded instruction and multi-age grouping. So right now our grouping is all based on birth dates. And a humanist approach would say, no. What do you want to study? How well can you study it? Because we're not going to grade it. Now before you poo-poo this, think of your world without grades. Think how much better you'd like this class if it wasn't graded. Okay. Free schools, storefront schools, schools without walls, all kinds of contrary, or what's the word I want to do? A plethora of different approaches to school. And humanist programs are usually more costly because of the kinds of instruction they want to perform. And again, let's go here now to number 10 will be the clip. Number 10 will be figure 5.6. So let me clip that. Oh, here's the humanistic activity. Please read that. That'll help you understand what this is. Okay, and here's the clip. And I'm going to grab it now for you. Okay, again, like I say, it's got the same premise here, and you'll want an understanding. And if you read again about the activity, this will make more sense to you, right? So that is humanism. And then this one is interesting. See if you can get your hands around this one. This came on about 30 some years ago when I first started teaching. When I was sitting where you are studying teaching, this I'd never heard of this, but suddenly I went to several workshops on constructivism, and everybody was talking about it, and the administration was challenging us to come up with constructivist approaches to teaching. So let me read to you what this is. Constructivism is the educational philosophy that emphasizes a developing personal meaning through hands-on. Okay, just get the hands-on based on teaching and learning. Okay, so it isn't so if you haven't done something. Constructivism is closely associated with existentialism. The American Psychological Association has encouraged teachers to reconsider the manner in which they view teaching. The APA contends that students are active learners who should be given opportunities to construct their own frames of thought. Teaching techniques should include a variety of different learning activities during which students are free to infer and discover their own answers and important questions. So again, it's not teacher as instructor, it's teacher as facilitator. Student decides what is important. Teachers need to spend time creating these learning situations rather than lecturing. Constructivist educators consider true learning to be active framing of personal meaning. So you've got to get that active framing of personal learning rather than framing of someone else's meaning, like the teacher's. Okay, so it sounds really good. One of the things that happened, how we got essentialism that we studied first was, let me ask you this question, and we're going to make this, and I'm not going to have you, but what was asked on the street, 100 people, name the 3 branches of the government, of the United States government. And okay, see if you can name them. You don't have to write them down because you can always look them up, but just think of what the 3 branches are. Okay, so on these, man on the street, after they asked them, they told them what the 3 branches were. Most of the people had never heard of them. So that's my fear with some of these, but I love this idea of hands-on. Who doesn't like that? But this is what you're doing with constructivism now. This will be number 11 right here. You're going to write a definition. This constructivism right there. And it's going to come from right there. And I'm going to tell you a personal meaning through hands-on. Students provide opportunity to construct meaning through critical thinking of big ideas. And to me, critical thinking is code for think like I do. I hear this all the time. I hear other professors say, oh, I teach them how to think. And I always think that's code for because they're not thinking like I think, so obviously they're not thinking correct. Because if they have a different opinion than I have, they don't have critical thinking skills. Okay. Teaching involves a variety of learning activities, freedom to infer and discover their own answers. Okay, so you got to be comfortable with that. And it's okay if they don't know the branches of government. It's okay if they don't know the capital of their state, because that doesn't have meaning to them. So this is all problem-based learning. Teacher invites students to experience and propose situations. Students are encouraged to ask questions, seek their own answers. Okay, so that's what constructivism is. And again, I'm going to give you the clip. Oh, you got to read this. This is really interesting also. What this, I think this is the most critical part of these because it tells you what this is. And here's your clip on constructivism. Let me grab my clipper here. And 5.7. So you're getting quite a few of them there, but that goes right here. This will be your number 12. I'm having a little trouble here. This will be your number 12. You'll bring in here that clip. So you just make sure you have all the clips in by the time you're done. So, developing your own. What does it take? Well, here they are. The learning, focus, and goals, organization and physical setting, teaching style, lesson planning, student assessment, evaluation, and motivation. So those are the things you address. And then this. So I'm going to ask you to bring these from here. A little something on each of these. So here they are, learning, focus, and goals. And so you're going to put an address, each of these in here. Learning, focus, and goals. It goes through this a little bit. And classroom organization, and here they are. Classroom organization, you're going to give a little definition of that. Classroom, that'll be number 13. I have you bring those in because that's the way it's going to be worded on the test, or something about that. Then physical setting, you read about that. Here's a little thing that talks about it. And then teaching style and lesson planning, student assessment evaluations. And so you pick through all this. Here's motivation. Bring that one in. Okay, let's see what this one. I'm not going to bring this one. I'll let you have this, but I'm going to bring this classroom management. So you're going to get this. Let me first do this. So here is 13, is that definition, and this will be 14 then, is you're going to address, not this one, this. You're going to address all those, as well as these. I should have had those beginning. So you're going to have, so you have an understanding what these are, and I'm going to clip this, and we'll get the two different ones between a non-interventionist to an interventionist, and then interactionist here. So teacher, what kind of control will you have, do you want? This is figure 5.10. So we jumped here. 5.10. And you're going to put that in your notes right here. This will be number 15. And then the different types of discipline. And here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to let you, but here's the ones that you got to be familiar with these terms. Choice theory, there. And what choice theory is, and assertive discipline, what that is, conflict resolution, what that is, and these will all become up a circle again, hopefully in classroom management. Okay, and then here's classroom climate, and again we're down here now, and here's classroom climate, and voice, and you want to address that, and space. Okay. All right, so that's that. So then let's go to this. Teachers as change agents. And this is the part that's really hard for me. So I'm going to let you pick a lot of this too. That's personal vision. So here's the change agent. So you're going to talk about that. Number 16, what is that? That's 16 there. And then change as adaption here. Change as rational process. You bring that in as a dialect. Those are all here that you're going to address. This one, this one, this one. And then this is our discussion one. Should teachers express their views on controversial topics in class? And I don't want you to respond to this till you've read both positions here, and then your position comes as reference to yes or no, which one you're agreeing with. So this will be our discussion question after you've read. Why didn't I get that? Okay, so there you have that. And teachers are leader, vision, that again comes here, and modeling. Empowerment. So I'll give you something to think about. Now you're not done. You're not done. That's the end of this, but I have one more part that I want you to do here, and that is you are going to come here, and I have linked up the table, only I have stretched it from last one. Click on this. And you get this, and here is the things you worked on last week, and now I've added this week to it right here. The teacher-centered and the student-centered. Last week, teacher-centered, student-centered. So you can't do anything with this. What you have to do is File, Download as, Excel, or whatever you need here to work with. And then you'll work on it from there. This is chapter 5, but it has chapter 4 in it. And then I'm going to show you how you're going to develop this. So here is it opening in an Excel, and I have frozen these so you can slide them up like this when you develop it. But now you'll come in this, and it's not as easy. Here it laid out for you exactly what it is. You have to come up with this yourself. What should students learn? What is the proper curriculum goal? What is proper teaching approach? How should character development occur here? So you're going to address metaphysics, human nature, epistemology, and axiology for these 6. They did it for you for these 4, and now you have 10 altogether to pick from. You got to do 6 and make it as accurate as possible. Plus, like last week, you're going to say which philosophers, if you can find them. Some of these you have to infer who was the philosophers behind this. But you're going to address that, and this will expand once you have it like this. And when you get them in there, you'll expand it. And when you're done now, just like last time, you will take this whole thing. You will take the whole thing and copy it to your notes, just like we did last time. So now you'll have this, because you're going to need it for another thing, but you'll copy yours after this is all completed, and you can bring the whole thing, including 4, and paste it in your notes on the very bottom. This will be the big one. This will be number 17 table. The challenge of it will be is this: you defining these, because they don't, your descriptions and the clips I gave you don't match with these exactly. You have to decide. And then you'll know a lot more about philosophy than you did when you started this.